From being a legal eagle to developing youth as the foundation to build a greater nation. That's the story of today's social enterprise co-founder Debbie Choa of Malaysia. Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Good. I'm also an entrepreneur, author, marketeer, storyteller, and connector. As the host of Womenpreneur Asia, I talk to Asian women entrepreneurs to uncover their personal stories of grit, hope, and transformation. These are real stories of courage and optimism from inspiring yet down-to-earth women in business across Asia. This episode is brought to you by my company, Reebok Studio. Today I'm speaking to Debbie Choa, one of the founders of Projek57, a social enterprise in Malaysia. I realized that I had been given one of Projek57's products, a Unity ribbon, a few years ago. About 300,000 Unity ribbons, handmade by the underprivileged, have been sold to date. And best of all, 100% of the profits go back to the people who made them. Debbie and her husband, Collin, started Projek57 with Collin's longtime friend, Syed Sadiq Albar, with the hope of bringing unity through youth engagement while giving back to the community. Working with corporations and youth, Projek57 has channeled more than 400,000 ringgit to help the underprivileged in Malaysia. They undertake workshops and projects that foster the spirit of unity in Malaysian youth. Projek57 began as a conversation about bringing true unity back into Malaysia. The founders were dismayed that racial polarisation and religious tensions were rising in Malaysia and believed that they needed to take action and do something to enable Malaysians to stand together as one. I love this episode as Debbie spoke about what motivates her to do this and continue doing this day after day. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, Debbie.
Thanks so much, Krista, for having me today.
So, Debbie, where are you now?
I'm in my work from home office. Hopefully, we'll be able to move back to our actual office in January. Yeah, no more work from home.
You are in Kuala Lumpur?
Yes, I'm in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
Okay. So, Debbie, I know a little bit about you because I did some research, but I want you to tell us, myself, and the listeners, who is Debbie?
That's a very good question. Well, I think I'm probably a much older version than if you had asked me 30 years ago or 25 years ago. But I guess today I would probably be very different, from when I was in my 20s. I guess I would like to be thought of as, firstly, a mom, actually. Yeah, firstly, a mom. And recently I was thinking about what I would like people to remember me as, right? And I guess I would like them to remember me as someone who was maybe kind, just very simple, like kind and wanting to help. Yeah. And hopefully my kids will also remember me as that. Yeah.
And how many kids do you have?
I have two boys. They're teenagers. One is 18 and the other one is 13. Yeah, so they're already teens. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to your business.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Projek57.
Okay, so Projek57, actually I'm part of the founding team together with two other people. One is my husband, Collin, and the other one is his business partner, Syed Sadiq Albar. So in 2015, August, we decided that we would like to see how, because we come from business backgrounds, right? Like, so I was a corporate lawyer for many years, like 15 years. And Collin and Sadiq are still entrepreneurs currently. And in 2015, we thought, what could we bring, right? Using our business experience, but also doing something a bit more impactful. And what was interesting was that they had sat down with their management team and asked their management team, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? And more than half of them actually had aspirations to leave the country, right? So that was kind of like eye-opening. That was one. And the other was that my husband and I are also in the entrepreneurs organization. And we had just come out of organizing an event which we called Impact, right? EO Impact. And it was about whether we could combine business or enterprise with impact. And we saw that model and we were very interested. I mean, this was probably about 2014, 2015. And we thought, wow, okay, can we use business, right, to be sustainable and at the same time do something impactful? And since we have all these young people wanting to leave the country, then what will happen, right, to our nation? So one thing led to another, and then we decided that we would give it a shot with this Project 57. Yeah. So that's basically how it got started. So we got inspired by that model. I mean, I think there's always a place for charity, right? Like people who are desperately in need. Don't talk to them about social enterprise, right? Or empowering them. They just need they need help at that moment. So there is still a space for charity. But if we want to do something that is sustainable and I guess transformative on a medium to longer term, then we need to look at enterprise as a means to make the project or the whatever it is that we want to do sustainable. Yeah, the impact sustainable.
Was it hard leaving your job?
Okay, so for me, it was a journey. It wasn't like I left my job to become a social entrepreneur. In fact, it was only recently that someone said, "Aren't you a social entrepreneur?" I mean, I never even thought of myself, like I don't label myself, right? It was just this journey. So I actually left. I went on sabbatical, like one of the longest sabbaticals, end of 2009. Yeah, and at that time it was very simple. There was nothing to do with social enterprise or whatever. It was just three objectives that I had. One was, firstly, well, actually, it's a spiritual thing to get to know God better, right? Second one was actually to spend time with my family because being a corporate lawyer, so I was a corporate lawyer, which I guess in terms of the time taken out of me because of the deals, right, that you need to close and all that, the timing. I didn't see my kids very much, and on the weekends I would also be working, and on the offshoot days when I'm actually available, I'll be like so tired, right? So I wasn't really paying attention to my kids lah. So I thought, okay, family is the second objective. And the third one, because somehow I always have this thing in me about helping the poor or justice, must be coming from that legal background thing. I thought, oh, can I do social work? Yeah. So that was end of 2009. So I told my managing partner, I was a partner in a law firm, and I told him that I think I'll need to take some time off to see, to look into these things. So that was a good 4 years before I finally actually said, no, this sabbatical is going on for too long. And I think, I'll leave. But in that time between, 2009, end of 2009 and 2015, right, were many various milestones that happened. So, like for example, so I did take on social work, and then because we are also in the EO Entrepreneurs Organization, well, my husband is a member, and then I'm the spouse. So spouses also get to, like be involved and learn the tools. Yeah, like we are all in what we call forum, which are small groups where we are taught how to share and present. And basically, there's a lot of take-home value. not just from business, but also family and personal development. So I got to actually take on a role where I wanted to be the one to help spouses understand what EO is all about and how it can help your family and your community and your personal development. So I actually for 2 years I did a project which combined enterprise and trying to teach underserved, underprivileged youths from homes a bit about business, doing a business plan, and giving them an enterprise experience lah. Yeah. So I would bring the spouses on board, their children as well, and then mix them up with the underserved youths, and then use our business background to teach them a bit about coming up with a business plan. Get a panel of judges together, something like what do you call that? Was it Shark Tank?
Shark Tank.
In the UK? Yeah. So then we teach them how to also do presentation, and ultimately we would create a marketplace for them lah. So I did that for 2 years, and in that process as well, I thought, oh, okay, so more and more towards, how can we use enterprise and also be impactful, right? Yeah. And then, of course, we met someone who is a kind of like one of our mentors, Dr. Kim Tan. He's an impact investor, of course, totally different level, but basically he introduced what he calls transformational business. Yeah, that you can actually use business to transform, and he's been doing it, different parts of the world like Africa, etc. Yeah, so we were very inspired by him, and so all this became like possibilities, and so finally that led to, because your worldview, I guess, changes as well, right? For me, it did. All right, so it's like very much from corporate, and I guess how I view success also has really changed, lah, right? Has evolved, lah, I would say. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money, but I felt that one of the reasons why I left in the first place, those 3 objectives, was quite motivated by whether there was something else out there, right? That I could feel more purposeful about. Yeah. And I'm just so thrilled that, in that journey, to be able to have the privilege of discovering that I can combine my corporate skills and whatever I learned, right, as a corporate lawyer, with doing impact. And of course, it's been very challenging as well, because I was a B2B, right, business to business corporate lawyer, and going into Projek57, which deals a lot with also the public, B2C lah, mainly, right? A big learning curve lah. I mean, there are too many stories that I can tell you of. Oh my goodness, because we are trying to use retail, right? B2C retail to sustain.
Yeah.
So, and we were trying to train Orang Asli youths to be part of the retail, like the salespeople and all that. So imagine, like, I ended up, even one time, it was so funny. I had 500 T-shirts wrongly tagged. So there were like little holes in them, right, at the back. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with them? And I can't scold, right, the Orang Asli youths, because also our fault, we didn't guide them properly, but partly, right? Because also we are also learning, didn't realize this. So yeah, it was quite funny lah, sitting down in the storeroom, trying to go through the T-shirts, really back to basics of learning from square one about retail and B2C, right? And but we are very blessed because we have a lot of supporters. And for example, those 500 T-shirts, right? One of our EO friends, Entrepreneurs Organization friends, actually so happened he wanted to do a campaign, and he wanted T-shirts for all the staff of his F&B outlets. So he wanted something like 500 T-shirts lah. And I disclosed him, I said, what if it has this dot? and I told him what happened. He said, "Ayah, so small lah. We'll just take all lah." So it's like, phew.
Like, thank God, right?
Yeah,
70%
thank
take
God.
all
So I mean,
500.
it's just I'm just telling you this because it's quite funny, because it's like you have to start from. So you're using skills that you already have, but for the things that you don't know how to do, you're really starting from scratch. But the amazing thing is also, because you're trying to do something impactful, that there are so many people that come and help you,
Want to
that it
support you.
becomes, to support, and it becomes this kind of like a bit of an adventure of a journey lah. Yeah. So
I want to backtrack a little bit. So you've been talking about Projek57, but what does Projek57 do? I know you talk about Orang Asli Youth and your merchandise, but what does it offer and how does it impact the community? Do you predominantly work with Orang Asli Youth or across all?
Okay, so I guess we have two pillars. The main umbrella and overall thing is really about inspiring patriotism and also unity, right? So like I mentioned earlier, we had all this talent and staff that wanted to leave the shores. So how could we inspire Malaysians generally, but primarily youths, to just like love your country, right? Like, we believe that deep down, okay, so even the minority that may sometimes feel, very challenged, right, with what they feel like unfairness. I think deep down there is a desire to belong, right? It's very funny, like when you go overseas, no matter what is happening in Malaysia,
We're all Malaysians.
yeah, we're all Malaysians, right? Yeah, of course. Nowadays, sometimes you feel whether do you feel proud or not, lah, right? To say that you are Malaysian, but deep down there is a sense of a desire to belong, right? Because like, although let's say I'm Chinese, I can't relate to being a Chinese or a Taiwanese Chinese, because it's just not, maybe okay lah. The closest is Singaporean, right? Chinese, but even then, right, we joke. So I think innate in each of us, even those who go overseas, right, they migrate, they still have that connection with Malaysia. So could we, was the question of just inspiring or doing things like campaigns or projects or workshops or whatever activities, collaborations even with corporates, that could inspire and get people to reflect or bring out, touch their heart in some way, lah, right? And the other one is unity, of course, because Malaysia, I mean, I feel, because people always say, is there hope or not? Right? This is one of the questions that we're asked. And of course, if we say yes, then they might say, you're also idealistic. But the yes is actually premised on the fact that I think primarily we are a very young country. We are only 64 years old if you talk about Merdeka, and 58 years old, right? This year, talking about including Sabah and Sarawak. So in 2019, before the COVID and all that, Projek57, and I went to Singapore. We were invited by the Singapore government. They invited like 1,000 delegates from 40 countries around the world to go for this international conference on cohesive societies. And you could see that, of course, King Abdullah of Jordan gave the keynote speech. And so you could clearly see that it wasn't just Malaysia, right, that was having issues with people getting along, or people of different backgrounds, racial and religious backgrounds, facing the same kind of problems, living and working together, right? So that sort of like made me think, okay, it's not just us lah, yeah. And we are young. And then, my age group, okay, I don't know about yours, but say mine, when I was young,
Probably
we have
the same
a reference. we have a reference point.
Yeah.
Our country, right? Where we got along pretty well, and we lived well together, right? And I think, yes, we are challenged by perhaps our political scenario and all that, and the systemic, it's more like the system. But as a people, I think we have lived together, right? Multiculturally. I don't want to say melting pot lah. They have this thing about whether we're a melting pot or not. I don't think we're a melting pot, but we still retain certain different identities, but we have come together in quite a nice way in the past. And I think we can get back to that lah. It's going to be a medium to long term view. Yeah, but there is hope in the youths, I think. Yeah. So meeting all these youths, there are um, many youths, even from the majority demographics, right, to the minority, that actually believe that for our country to be progressive, right, it is important that we share common values, we focus on what those are, and we accept one another where we can, and where we can't, then we have to tolerate lah. But there is a certain value system, I think, that we are brought up with, right? And we use the Rukun Negara a lot as well, right? Which to be a focal point, yeah, of coming together lah. Yeah. So I think there is hope for those reasons lah. That we are a young country still. You can see other countries also facing a lot of challenges, and our hope is in the youths. Yeah.
So it's not just unique to us in Malaysia lah. It's not a
Yeah,
unique
right?
situation to us.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, even the United States of America, right?
Yeah.
Supposed to be the icon of democracy, but had the Black, lives thing, right? The whole issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So it means that in Projek57, you focus a lot on training also, training workshops.
okay, so one of the pillars was that. Sorry, I went off on this whole tangent. But the second pillar is actually, we started with wanting to empower Orang Asli youths, right? So the older ones. And why Orang Asli youths as part of patriotism, unity, and nation building, right? Is because they are actually the original people, right, of the land, and one of the most marginalized. So we thought, if we're going to do like nation building, inspiring patriotism and unity, then we must also be inclusive of this people group. So we started with youths, and we did have in the past training, right, where we had this little outlet at Atria, and they would come on the weekends. So we actually collaborated with an NGO that actually taught them living skills and how to repair solar panels and computers, right? So they would come on the weekends to our store, and what we would train them, and also when we go for events, so we would train them. I guess it was like improving their communication skills, helping them get out of their comfort zone, helping them to be more confident, right? So we did that, and then we went on to education scholarships. But moving forward, we are going to sort of like go back to seeing if we can do education for starting at a younger age. Because by the time they are much older, it's quite difficult. I mean, the success rate for us is like 50% only, yeah, or less. Those that really make it to university or they finish their SPM is very low in number. Those that came on our training program, right? They even completed their course at the NGO, right, the Youth Development Center. But so many of them run back to the village after that. Yeah, so it's like we are trying to bring them out of their, where they want to be, right, which is in their kampong. And we are telling them that they should develop, that development in this way is good for them. right? So I think the idea is that can we then reach out to the younger ones, start younger. So we're starting with kindergarten next year. We have a pilot project, kindergarten. Can we use technology, okay, in that quite a lot of these villagers, they may not have good internet access. So it's we are using the Internet of Things, but for what we call remote learning, right? Yeah. So we are, and can we also? The question is, by doing this way, um, improve the quality of teaching, because the teachers don't want to go into the village to teach. So can we
Because it's
video
so
record
remote,
them?
right?
Yeah, so remote. And even those that are not that remote, because I went recently, right? I was telling you, it's a quite a journey on the dirt road, lah. Yeah, to get to the kampung. So then can we, improve the quality of teaching by video recording, etc. And then the kids don't have to come out, right, to get a good education. And then we use facilitators from their community. And with all this, at the end of the day, it would be great if they had a choice, whether they want to actually come out to the city, or can they go on to other things and choose to remain in their villages, but maybe they can engage in some activities, with their education knowledge and all that, right? And they are very, very marginalized because people are taking their land, they are taking their forests, right? And all the loss of biodiversity. So this second pillar really is also in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, United Nations SDGs. Yeah, there's a loss of biodiversity in our forests, right? So by empowering these people, can they then have a choice to remain and be the protectors and of their heritage, which is basically the forest, lah. Yeah. So these are the two main pillars of what we do. Yeah.
And you work with corporates.
Yes, they have been very, very what do you call it, supportive. I don't think we could do what we do without the support of the corporates. I mean, so when we do these two pillars, right, we also run campaigns, right? Like we have cycled around Malaysia. Hopefully we can do that again next year, right? We have done the unity ribbon. Okay, so I'm wearing it now, right? Unity ribbon.
Which I have. That I have.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, these are like little things, right? That it's a small little thing, but when we run the campaigns, we are pushing out the narrative, right? Yeah, about loving your nation, about hope, about not giving up, about being united, right? So yeah, the corporates are because they buy these ribbons, so they buy our T-shirts, our with patriotic, nationalistic messages. They become partners in our campaigns, right? So I guess we give them the, what do you call it? Because when they partner with us, it's not just about helping the poor, right? It is also about the unity and message, right? And we use Tunku Abdul Rahman a lot as our icon, right? So we have this favorite quote of his about how our future depends on how well many different kinds of people live and work well together. So when a corporate partners us, they are basically saying that they love Malaysia, that it is important for us to be united, and at the same time they would be helping us to sustain what we do, lah. Yeah. So definitely corporates are very, very important, and we hope that as we continue on, they'll continue to support us, lah. Yeah.
So we've talked about your social enterprise and you being a social entrepreneur, even though you never really thought about yourself as a social
I know,
entrepreneur.
right?
But who or What was your growing up years like? Because I'm sure the work that you're doing right now is not something that just appeared from nowhere, even though you said that you did take a break, a sabbatical to focus on your family and what you wanted to do. But what were your growing up years like? And I'm sure that probably had an impact on the work that you're doing right now. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, my dad has no idea, like, how it is that his daughter became like this. And sometimes he's like, are you, should you go back to being a lawyer? I can earn more money, right? I mean, I guess I had so I had a pretty regular childhood, maybe up till my teenage years. Then, of course, I did have quite a traumatic experience of my mom passing away when I was very young, 17. But how does that relate to wanting to do all this? I can't really see the connection, although she was a very kind person. Okay, so maybe that's where my desire to be kind comes from. But there was always in me this thing about justice. I don't know where it comes from. So, why did I decide to become a lawyer? Okay, the funny thing is, of course, when I watch L.A. Law, I don't know whether you are.
Yes, I
Yeah,
watched
right,
it.
L.A. Law, right? I thought,
We all
wow.
wanted to be lawyers.
Yeah, I thought, wow, they go into the courtroom and especially the ladies, right? Their suits and they can, fight for these people, right? So somehow this thing about justice, because even when I started being a litigation lawyer first. And I would be the one in the firm when you're supposed to go for AGM, right? Like no one goes for AGM. And I'm like, no, we must go for AGM because we are duty bound, to exercise our right to vote, right? So, and if they don't have a quorum, then all this money is going to be wasted. So we must all go. So I'll go around the firm. Hey, come, let's go, right? So somehow that, and then interestingly enough, so I had the opportunity to study in the UK, right? So I did my law degree in the UK. And, like in those days, people would like stay back, right? They want to stay back, they want to work or whatever. But for me, it was like, no, I want to go home. I don't know where that comes from, but I just had this desire that I must go home, right? And so Malaysia is like my home lah, right? So if you see my Instagram account or whatever, Malaysia is basically my home, right? At one point, I wanted to say my homeland. Then Sadiq said, wow, very drama lah, your homeland. So I said, yeah, like homeland security, right? In the United States, like defending your country, right? Yeah. So I honestly can't tell of any one particular incident that caused me to have this, but ever since I was young, and doing social work is always something that I wanted to do lah. Yeah, because at that time there's no such thing as social enterprise, right? Yeah. So even from very young, yeah, I always wanted to like volunteer or somehow, okay, I'll be the one bringing all the puppies home, like those. Then my mom will be like, oh my god. Then I was like, kitten also, even though I don't really care that much for kittens, but also, I would bring these animals home because they are like I find them in school and then they have, I don't know, there's no mother, right? So I bring them home lah. Yeah. So I don't know where it comes from, but maybe it's you have that thing that people ask, is it nature or nurture, right?
But where you grew up, do you grew up in KL, in Kuala Lumpur?
Okay, I grew up in Serdang, University Pertanian, Malaysia. So all our neighbors are all Malay. Yeah. And then I went to Bukit Bintang Girls' School. So perhaps some of the values come from Bukit Bintang Girls' School, right? Because it's very disciplined. We have to clean toilets. We have to be humble, right? Do all the stuff. And there's a lot of like we will have bazaars where we raise funds. So maybe part of that also comes from the values, right, that I was taught in a missionary school, right? Bukit Bintang Girls School. Yeah. And I have no problems befriending any other race nowadays, right? Like recently, it was quite funny. I think ABIM is an NGO, right? Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia. So they asked me, hey, Debbie, adakah kamu nak datang jadi Permidato? And I was like, oh, apa itu Permidato? So apparently, basically, it's like giving a speech, lah, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody gives a speech. So then I realized when I said, okay, so I ended up being the only Chinese lah. So it's quite funny when they did the picture of all the Permidato, then I'm like the only one not wearing
Not wearing a
tudung,
headscarf.
a headscarf, and the only Chinese lah, right? But they were very
Yeah.
appreciative, and I had no problems. I actually enjoyed myself being in the midst. You know, everyone was very friendly, and with them as well, I enjoy going to make bubur lambuk during the puasa month. I've been, and you're basically making in a big pot porridge, right?
Yeah.
For the poor lah. So you make it, then you pack, right? Yeah. So I really love doing all that because I love to find out about people. Yeah, somehow, right? I have an interest in like why do you do that, eh? Or how would you be thinking about something? Yeah. So that always interests me a lot. When I was I just finished my chambering. I remember a friend and I went to China and it was to Shenzhen, and they have this what do you call that? Like a world, like pretend that you are in all the places of the world, but everything is miniature, right? And I couldn't be bothered to see what was in the park. I actually wanted to go to the rehearsals of the performers that came from different parts of China. And I was so intrigued why certain performers from Xinjiang, for example, could actually be, like dark, and how come they're Muslim and all that. Yeah. So I always had an interest in people. Yeah.
What was the topic that you spoke about during your being a Permidato with Abib?
Okay. Okay. So I spoke about whether there is hope. So I did talk about what I shared with you earlier. But I also went on to talk about where do we start, right? When it comes to reconciliation, basically, of the various races. So I spoke about that there is hope if we also are able to reconcile, right? And national reconciliation would start with us as individuals, right? So I said that, so for example, as a Chinese, right? We always think of, let's say, Malays as dot 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 or XXX, and then Malays think of Chinese as, probably they think of us as Russians because we're always rushing around, right? But instead of thinking that they should, what do you call it, that we should forgive them for how they think about us, but maybe we should ask them to forgive us, right? For the ways that we think, about them. So it was about forgiveness, lah, right? And not so much we forgiving others, but we asking for forgiveness, right? Yeah. So it was on that topic, lah, and maybe they were just being kind, lah, but they gave very good feedback in the chat, lah. Yeah. So I think it starts with us, and we need to teach our children. That was my second point, because we're all like Muslim mothers there, right? All ladies lah. We're all ladies, and these are leaders from this Persatuan Salwa, which is affiliated with ABIM, from all over Malaysia. they're all the leaders of their different states, like Kelantan, whatever, La Terengganu, Johor and all that. So I said, we need to actually teach our children, right, about this. Can we look at things like the way that, can we basically be more accepting, and can we be the ones that we understand that we are the ones that are wrong, right? Ourselves. Everyone is wrong, basically, right? And these youths, if we can teach our children, because they use social media, they are the ones that can go out there and spread how they believe, right, in a much more impactful way. So can there be this ripple effect, starting from our homes, starting from ourselves as individuals? Yeah. So that was basically my message. Yeah.
That is actually a very powerful message, because it doesn't start with what's wrong out there. It starts with us, right, as individuals.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And that is the effect that you want to tell them, that it starts with us, each of us.
Yes.
Not by pointing fingers out there. Like, it starts with you guys, not me.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, we label other races. Like, Chinese will label Malays a certain way. I mean, like, recently there was this, was it over Hari Raya, that one of the organizations put out, one of the NGOs, they put out an ad.
Yeah.
Right? Or like a video, I don't know whether you watched it. And it was about the child, because of what he was taught at home, calling other
or what
race,
he heard, right? What he heard from his parents.
Yeah, calling, I think it was the Indian race, a derogatory term. And the ad wasn't meant to be derogatory, but it was meant to provoke thought, right? About what are we teaching our children?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, progressive ad.
Yeah.
But
I
so
thought it was
many people,
powerful, right?
Yes, it was so powerful, but they got so much flack. Yeah. Negative like views and comments, that they had to take it off. And I was so disappointed that our society is not ready, right?
That we can't even talk about things like this.
Exactly. We always say this, tak kenal maka tak cinta, right? If you are not even able to talk about these sensitive issues, then in fact honestly, they shouldn't be sensitive issues.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like my Bukit Bintang Girls School, we still have a group of all of us who are very old already lah. But the great thing was that, I mean, there was one point when there was a lot of because there was this preacher that came to Malaysia, and he was Muslim preacher, and a lot of hoo-ha right, about him. And so we have Malay, Chinese, Indian, Punjabi all in our chat group, right? Like many of us lah, right? And I was, of course, it was like, some heated argument there, right, that I was observing going on. But I thought, great. Why? Because we, at that time, we know each other well enough that we can talk about it, even though it feels sensitive, and even though we agree to disagree at the end, right? So why can't we, do this? And no one left the chat group. It wasn't like, oh, and then people get upset. People got upset, but they didn't leave, right? They then, after that, okay lah, fine lah, let's just agree to disagree, and then we'll move on lah. But at least they could voice out how they felt, yeah. So it's very, very sad that these days, our children are not even in the same space to be able to discuss these things. And that is the part that is very worrying, because if this trend doesn't reverse, then we're going to become further and further apart. Yeah. One of the things that Projek57 does in that first pillar that I talked about, that we've done in the past, is also having workshops or projects where we mix youths of different races together, coming together to make the unity ribbon, then we talk about stuff and all that. But we get them to sit in groups where they have not met each other and they are from different backgrounds. Yeah, in an attempt to sort of like have an introductory experience, right? of that is not so bad. Actually, at the end of the day, we all have the similarities, right? And those kind of projects have been quite successful. Yeah, they really enjoy themselves coming together. Yeah, so it's so sad we don't have that in school now.
Then I want to ask you, what's the most complicated part about running a social enterprise? I know you have a lot of things that about unity. I mean, you have to translate those what we believe as concepts into something that's tangible and the youths can see and understand. But what's the most complicated part about all this, the whole thing that you're running?
Okay, at the end, social enterprise is an enterprise. It's a business. So you will have the same challenges as any business. So for example, if you're having a startup, or even now, I mean, like, so there's still the things about, is your business plan working, right? So you have your revenue, cash flow, especially during the pandemic, it was like, cash flow, how, you know? So you have to look at it as an enterprise, all right? You cannot, what do you call it? Fall back too much to making it like a charity lah, because then you're not running it to be sustainable. I mean, sometimes you might get tempted. So difficult lah, enterprise, right? But I think it's very important to stay true to the enterprise model, and with it will come all the usual challenges. I mean, from even hiring talent, right? But it's better to try to hire talent with a social enterprise than an NGO, because at least with the social enterprise, they might feel that they have a career track, right? But you have all the same challenges. There is an added cost of the social part. So, for example, if I'm doing like helping the orang asli and all that, because they are very marginalized. So when I want them to sell my things, example, right? They might find it much more challenging, and I will find it very challenging because they're not selling, and I can't give them the same KPIs as I would regular sales staff, right? So it would become then a cost factor. But that is set off, and I think quite balanced off by the fact that people that would probably not have supported me as a corporate lawyer, right, or given me work, would come alongside and journey with you lah, because of your social work. Yeah. So that's how I usually try to, explain it to youths lah, right? If they ask me, social enterprise, yeah, I say, no, challenges are all the same. And I always tell them, you don't have to start your own social enterprise now. I think young people just should sort of like identify what is their area of passion, right? And then go out there to learn. It's okay to be an employee, right? Learn as much as you can first. The important thing is to learn. Then later on, if you feel that you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur, because a social entrepreneur or any other entrepreneur requires a certain mindset, right? A certain boldness, a certain courage. And do you have the vision as well? Right? So it's not so easy to just say, hey, I want to run a social enterprise. It's still an enterprise. Yeah. So you may not feel that you are cut out to be an entrepreneur at the end of the day. Yeah. My husband is more of an entrepreneur than I am, actually, honestly speaking. Yeah. It's just that he's a good visionary. So
what does he do? Since we're talking about him.
Okay. So Sadiq and he, they run a business that is very technical, also B2B, within the port industry. So they provide services to the port industry, like servicing cranes, maintenance. So very, very technical. Yeah, and very, very B2B. So, but he, both him and Sadiq, I mean, they have a strong desire. I mean, like I do, about our nation. I think in terms of skill set, Collin is the visionary lah. Yeah. Sadiq has his other strengths, like in terms of design, right? And then my strength is actually pulling things together. Yeah, yeah. And I'm quite versatile, lah, just that I'm not a visionary.
You're a
I'm a
multitasker.
facilitator and an implementer and a mobilizer. Yeah.
Yeah. Then in terms of Project 57, what has been your biggest success to date? Or something that you consider successful in the course of how many years? 2015 until now? Yeah.
Yeah, about more than 5 years now.
5
Almost
years,
6 years. Yeah,
yeah.
6 years. Okay, I think the Unity Ribbon campaign has been quite successful, right? We started that in the year 2018. Actually, we started it before the elections. So we told ourselves, no matter what happens, we should start this Unity Ribbon. So it's a bit like the poppy, right? You know, in the UK where you remember your war heroes, right? Of course, the poppy has been around for 100 years now. But we figured that if we could do it over an extended period, like year in, year out, just do it, right? Could it become something, right, of a symbol for unity for our nation? So like if people think about unity, they think about, or they think about the ribbon, right? Or every Merdeka or Malaysia Day, people want to wear it, and maybe even throughout the year for some, right? So I think this one, basically, we have sold more than 300,000 ribbons. Yeah, and so it's really helped towards our sustainability and helping us to do what we do. And also the people who make it have been the Orang Asli youths, and also Sabahan and Sarawakian youths community. And also we included even the physically disabled. We included the autistic youths, but the older ones. By the way, the autistic youths are probably the best ribbon makers because they are so precise. You give them the jig and they will not go out of, anywhere, right? So we pay them because it's like a social enterprise. So that's another thing that we do. Whatever we do for our unity, etc., we're always trying to see how can we include the empowerment of the underserved element, right? So we pay them wages, just like in any other business. In fact, it is more expensive. So you see what I mean by the social part is there's a cost to it. It's more expensive to actually get them to make the ribbons than if I were to just say buy it from China or whatever lah. Yeah. But we want to include them, and so that's why we've been getting them to do it. So I think 300,000 ribbons is not too bad lah. We've done it for 4 years. Yeah. This year was really tough, but thankfully
because of pandemic.
Because of the pandemic, and because it was MCO, so even our partners, like we have distribution partners like Post Malaysia, Village Grocers, we've had My News in the past. Basically, this year is like, who's going A&Ws, who's going to put it out there? Like, I can't ask any F&B partner, right? Because all their outlets are closed. And even like, okay, so we still had Post Malaysia and Village Grocers, but of course the sales was down. So actually the one saving partner was Grab. Yeah, so Grab came alongside and decided to take 20,000 ribbons and put it with signature partners, and they ran a campaign. I was really chuffed to see the ribbon in the Grab app, for 4 days, right? I mean, only at certain times, like lunch or whatever, and dinner, to encourage people to buy food, and then you get a ribbon kind of thing. But they really helped us, and I guess saved the day lah. But the ribbon is something that I'm very amazed and encouraged, because 300,000 means that there are at least 300,000 Malaysians that love it enough to buy it and want to wear it lah, right?
And give it to their friends.
And give it to their friends. And, maybe if we go up to 10 years, could it be a staple, right? A staple item for Merdeka or Malaysia Day. And for our, like, something that when they think of Malaysia or this thing, they think of the ribbon. And what is amazing is the people that have been involved in making the ribbon, they feel something as well, and we had this chat group of even the Sabahan Sarawakians, and they were really pleased when they saw, like, celebrities or whoever wearing it, or politicians. They would say, saya yang buat tu. Right? And then when they make it, they are also learning about the message, because we don't just get them to make. We will go there and we will present to them and explain the why. Even to the autistic youth, we will do it in very simple terms, like, we print out cardboard, like picture of Tunku Abdul Rahman, like just a few of these cardboard things, right? And just explain to them, why are you doing it? Because you're a Malaysian and you're going to be part of this. And when you make the ribbon, right, and it goes out, right, somebody's going to be wearing what you made, and they're going to be saying that they love Malaysia and they want a better Malaysia and they want to be united, right? So yeah, I still sometimes feel like, wow, really? It's just a ribbon, isn't it? But so it's just a ribbon, but because in each of us is that desire, like I said earlier on, to belong, right? So they will connect. Most people will connect with it. Even the very, sometimes the
Jaded
very
ones.
jaded ones, very jaded. Then they come up, the uncle, right?
Yeah.
Can meh? Yeah. Okay lah. Since you all believe it, help you all lah, right? Buy a t-shirt or buy a ribbon, And then they have this conversation with you, and we hope that also it leaves something in them, lah, that we can actually tell them. We met so many youths, right, in our journey. Yeah. And we tell them, look, why are we selling this also? Because it's enterprise. We don't want to just ask you to donate money, right? So when you help this whole thing, you are not just inspiring patriotism, unity, and helping the Orang Asli youth, but we also want to promote the social enterprise model, lah. Yeah.
So it's not just a ribbon. It's beyond the ribbon.
Yeah. And that beyond comes from us being Malaysians, I think. So this ribbon is just something that brings that out of each of us, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, great job. I love that. I love that as a success story of Projek57. Now, we've come to almost the top of the hour, but I wanted to ask you something really personal. I mean, some really personal things about you, right? So we were talking about, because this is something which I realized about all my guests on my podcast, is that, well, once we get started about their business, they can go on and on and on about the business.
Right.
But the thing is, I also want to know you as a person, you as the entrepreneur. And so the last couple of minutes, I just want to ask you certain things that people get to know a little bit about Debbie, right? So Debbie, what is the craziest thing you've ever done?
Craziest thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. What crazy thing have I
Or
done?
daredevil, if you put it the other way. Oh, you're a law-abiding citizen.
Yeah. Wait, hang on. Let me think. Yeah, I think I'm quite law-abiding in that sense. But I think I'm someone that doesn't mind, or rather I quite embrace these days, like always learning and adapting. You see, like, like learning a new thing, and but craziest daredevil, because I'm scared of heights, so I won't dare to do all those things, right? In fact, okay,
no bungee jumping, no jumping out planes.
No bungee jumping and all that. So but I'm very loud. Like my husband will say, "Ayo, this one very loud," right? And I guess I'm not afraid to speak or to, like, there was a time when, so for example, even in my spiritual journey, or sometimes in the way that I think of things, I wonder whether people think it's wacky, right? A bit wacky. But it doesn't bother me lah. I mean, I would still talk about it, and I would still, I guess, embrace it passionately, and I would want to share something with you, right? Even if you might think that it's like, what, right?
Okay, so tell me something wacky now that
Wacky.
you brought it up.
Uh, okay, I mean, like, okay, spiritually, right? So, so I'm a Christian, so I'm a follower of Jesus. So sometimes, when they ask me like, why are you doing this? So I'm like, because I think it's an assignment from God, right? Example. And then I tell them like, how I follow Jesus, right? Like, there is no roadmap or blueprint that he's going to give me, because I've tried asking before and it doesn't happen. So I have to get out of my comfort zone, and I tell them like, like you're climbing this hill. So let's say you see, okay lah, Jesus there, right? And then I have to step out first, right? In faith. Then he meets me, but he will meet me at this step one. Then I have to step out in faith, because everything that I do then gets bigger, and it is adventurous, but it's also scary, right? So my scariness may not be bungee jumping, but I have to step out and do something that I don't know how to do, right? And then I have to have faith, and then I now have to believe that he will send me the resources or the people or whatever, but I need to make myself available. So when I draw this and I draw this thing out, right? Of course, sometimes they look at me, okay, we don't quite get it, but especially with my forum, right? My forum, because I share a lot of stuff with them. So they'll say, okay lah, we don't quite get it, but okay lah, that's your journey, right? So because humans, we are taught, like even when I was a lawyer, to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. But the way that I think now is quite contrary to that, because I believe that I don't know how to do it. I know I don't know how to do it, but that I must do it lah, right? If I believe, I must be obedient lah and surrender, right? Kind of thing. So, but I never did this until, I left my legal practice, right? But in the last few years, in this Project 57, that has been basically the journey. And when I get scared and fearful and I don't move, right? Sometimes I do that lah, right? Oh, I don't want to move. I don't want to, you're so tired already lah, right? Then I realize, oh, tired is because I'm using my own strength again and my own self-reliance. Yeah. So then when I start moving, it is actually quite amazing. The things that I see or the experiences that I have. Yeah. So
So it means that you have to trust there's
I
something
have
greater
to
than
trust,
you.
yes, than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to trust it based on my experiences, right? Because it's not a visible thing. Yeah. And there's no one talking to me, right? I mean, except of course there is the Bible lah, but there's no one like my boss is not visible and I don't hear his audible voice. So I see fingerprints, and that is how I have to walk, right? Yeah.
And clues, right? Clues and hints.
Yeah. So it's actually, I call them fingerprints lah. His fingerprints lah, right? Yeah. And then sometimes you go. But okay, so the mentor said this: when I'm fearful, I always remember what he said, because he's also a follower of Jesus, right? Our Datuk Dr. Kim Tan. He said, but Debbie, if your heart so desires to do what you think Jesus wants you to do, then even if you were to go off tangent, right? I believe that he will bring you back to the path, because your heart so desires it. So I also comfort myself that way, lah, right? Yeah. So yeah, anyways. And there are, of course, a lot of personal challenges too, and things along the way, because the journey is about, again, back to you transforming as a person as well, right? So it's not just Project 57 where you are using it to outreach to others and making yourself available, but it is your own journey as well. And of course, who likes to transform or be a work in progress, right? Yeah, that part sometimes is quite challenging.
Yeah. So, final question. What's the final thing that you want our listeners to know as a result of listening to our episode today?
Okay. Well, a lot of people ask, if we wanted to start a journey, right, of impact, um, never mind whether it's through a social enterprise or whatever, but where do we start is what a lot of people ask. And I tell them, especially the young people, um, firstly, identify, like what I said earlier, what is your area of passion? Is it children? Or is it politics? Is it animals even? Right? Then go and pursue that. You don't have to leave your job to do it yet, but you can just follow that and then see where that leads you. But don't give up also lah. So don't just do it like a short while or whatever, but engage in it. And it's very interesting how the journey will balloon and you will meet. I mean, like these days, I meet people that I would never imagine, right? I mean, as a lawyer, as a corporate lawyer. Corporate lawyer, I would have met corporates lah. Okay, fine. But I would not have met activists. I would not have met individuals, right? Who really love their country so much, right? And really the activists and the NGOs and even the type of corporates, because I was doing mainly IPOs, right? So again, the wide ranging kind of people, and sometimes I don't even meet. It's I'm meeting the bosses, right, of those corporates, and it's just very amazing who I've met. Some people also, I'm like, wow, really, right? Like they are very prominent people. I met celebrities that if I was a corporate lawyer, they wouldn't bother, right, with me. But they come and they also support. We've had many influences in the past, even Datuk Siti Nurhaliza, right, the sweetheart, she also wore our ribbon and promoted it. So yeah, I feel very blessed. So with that is what I would tell, uh, anyone that wants to start their journey. Just do it, and open up your heart and just go for it. Yeah.
And where can people find out more about you or Project 57 if they wanted to, or connect with you?
Okay. Okay. So Project 57, of course, we have a website, www.projek57, projek57.com. We have Instagram, Facebook, so you can go there. Twitter, Twitter not so active, but Facebook and Instagram. Personally, I do have a Facebook and also an Instagram account. You will laugh that the only reason why I'm active somewhat on social media, not that active, is because of Project 57, right? Because otherwise, before Project 7, basically I never knew what an Instagram account was. And yeah,
You live your life
so old
offline.
also, but still learn all these things. Yeah, I live my life offline. So yeah, you can find me there. You can message me. I'll try to answer, I guess. Sure, no problems. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Debbie. Very interesting conversation we had today. And also, I love the message that Project 57 is telling the world out there is about unity. And who doesn't want all this thing in our country, right? I mean, regardless of whichever country you are in, unity, harmony, peace, love. I mean, these are the things that we really want for ourselves, and of course, our family and our neighbors and our community. So I really, really, I'm glad that you decided to quit your legal world and come and be part of this and to do more in a different way. And I see that from your journey, the way you told your story just now, you have always been about social justice and also about making the world more equitable for all.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it's been in you from very young. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Nature or nurture. Yeah.
It's all both. It's both. It's nature and nurture. Yeah. So thank you so much, Debbie.
Thank you so
really,
much,
really appreciate the time, and we will definitely see you again. Especially probably bring you back on again and talk about more good stuff that Project 57 is doing in the later seasons.
Sure. No problems. Yeah, all the best as well on your womenpreneur. Let me know when this is being aired, and we can also share your platform. Yeah. Thanks so much, Krista. Really appreciate you interviewing me, Debbie, and Project 57. Debbie first, right? Yeah.
Yes, Debbie first, because the focus is on Debbie. Then comes Project 57, but we cannot separate the Project 57 from Debbie.
True. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Debbie today. If you have a question that you'd like me to ask any of our guests, let me know. I'll try to incorporate your question in the next season. Episode 13 is usually my final episode of the season, but this season, I have a bonus episode with Malaysian-born Diane Lee, who has been in the male-dominated construction and engineering industry in the US for more than 15 years. Diane is an executive director with Kitchell Corporation, a construction engineering company in the US. And she's also the author of a book that she wrote during the pandemic lockdown when prejudice and attacks on the US Asian community was happening. In bonus episodes, I bring on women who deserve to be spotlighted in Womenpreneur Asia, although they may not necessarily be entrepreneurs themselves. Diane's story is coming up next week, so stay tuned for next week's bonus episode that caps the season.